I hate her, but like, you're not gonna touch her. I'm like, are we crazy? He quite literally crawled home to her like that. I'm so sick in the head. Hi everyone, my name is Taylor. I will talk to anyone and everyone about books who will listen, and today we're going to be talking about my God tier reads. These are the 6 stars. These are the ones that you will have to pry out of my cold dead hands. Now, we do have a little bit of a variety here. We have fantasy, romantasy, dark romance, mafia romance. What else am I missing? Contemporary romance. So yeah, these are the ones that I will think about for the rest of my life, and I fear nothing's going to get better than this. So first up, we have Throne of Glass. Now, this is a series that I will never shut up about. I will never be able to fully explain the way that I feel about this series, the way that I feel about these characters. I can think about them and tear up just thinking about them. It will never get old to me. Now, fantasy, I feel like sometimes it can be a lot. And this is a series that I have reread 3 times because I love it so much. For anyone who doesn't know what Throne of Glass is about, this follows Selena. She is a world-renowned assassin, but she is in the salt mines of Endovier as a slave currently. And so this book starts when she is being summoned to the Glass Castle, and she's being summoned to basically fight in this tournament amongst other thieves and assassins and killers and all of these different people. And they basically fight in these tournaments to become the king's champion. Now, Selena has a past that makes her absolutely despise the king. She hates the government. She hates anything that's in this political realm. She hates. And so she is in this tournament to earn her freedom, but she cannot stand the king. And so she's kind of battling those issues, but along the way, she learns a lot about the magic that's happening in the world, because there's a lot of just like secret things that she finds out, and it's a little bit of a mystery because she's trying to figure out more about the world, and it is so good. Like, it's so much more than that. That's literally just the bare minimum, but to avoid spoilers, that is what the premise of this is. Now, the big discourse about this series is, where are you gonna read Assassin's Blade? Because Assassin's Blade, technically, chronological order comes before Throne of Glass because it is a prequel. However, I have always said read Throne of Glass first and then read Assassin's Blade third. That's how I did it for the first time. But I truly don't think you can do it any wrong way, because I think it really just depends on what you want to get out of it. If you're someone who you want to know everything that's happening, like when you go into this book, if you want to know how Selena became a slave, how she got to where she is, if you want to know that before you get to this book, read Assassin's Blade first. But if you're someone who you want a little bit of intrigue, like when I read this for the first time, obviously I didn't know her backstory. I didn't know how she got to where she was, and so I was a little bit confused. However, I think that that's what kept me so intrigued, was because I loved her as a character, but I was like, why is she acting this way? Like, why is this happening, and why is this happening, and what does she mean by that? But I wasn't so confused to the point to where I didn't know what was going on. It just, I had a little bit of confusion to the point to where I was like, I'm itching to find out more. And so it kept me going, and it kept me looped into the story, because I knew, like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out as we go on. Once you get to the end of the second book, which is Crown of Midnight, you realize, like, oh, like, you just have this light bulb moment of, that's why she was acting that way, and that's why this happened, and that's why she said this. And then you go back to Assassin's Blade, you see how she got to where she is, and then you go to book 4 and you get to present day. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to go back in time, so like I said, if you don't like to go back in time and you want to read it in chronological order, read Assassin's Blade first. But if you're someone that, you know, you want a little bit of confusion, you want to have something that kind of itches you to keep going, I say read it third. If you want like a light bulb moment of, oh, that's why that happened, read it third. So that's my little Assassin's Blade rant. I'm also very much pro tandem read. I love tandem reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I think it's great. Also, with the way that Empire of Storms ends, a lot of people, you will want to read Tower of Dawn at the same time, because if you finish Empire of Storms and you have to read 700 pages of Tower of Dawn before you get to Kingdom of Ash, you're going to be miserable. And take that from someone who loves Tower of Dawn. I love Tower of Dawn so much, but I think for the first time you should tandem read it. Now, you don't have to. That's like, when the books came out, it was not intended to be tandem read. However, I think that now that we have that option, I think it's great. But I've read it all the different ways. I've read Assassin's Blade first, I've read it third, I have tandem read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I've also read them separately. I love it every way. I just think for the first time, you should probably tandem read it. Now, Assassin's Blade is a whole different story. Whatever you want out of it, that's how you read it. And so, yeah. That's my rant on Throne of Glass. Now, there is no series that will ever make me feel the way that this one does. This I feel like I cry every time I read it more and more and more. Like last time I read it, and the audiobooks of this are so good. Elizabeth Evans, which is the narrator, so good. Like when I finished Kingdom of Ash the last time, which this was another reread of mine, so this wasn't my first rodeo with it, I sobbed. Like you would think that it would get easier because I would know what's happening. No, no, no. No. Also, I would say all Sarah J Maas books are my god tier books. I didn't want to include ACOTAR or Crescent City because I already am including Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass is like a whole other level for me. Like no book is ever going to reach Throne of Glass level. However, all Sarah J Maas books, it kind of falls under this category. So ACOTAR and Crescent City as well. Yes, I'm not going to include them in this video, but just know they're god tier as well. And then coming up right after Throne of Glass, and I mean right after, is Boys of Tommen. I love this series with my entire being. It used to be a match between these. Like these used to be tied because I read this first and then like months later I read this, and this was a couple of years ago, and for the longest time I told myself these are my, like, this is my top. However, as time has gone on, I'm like, nothing compares to this. Like as much as I love these people, nothing compares to these people. So, but they are very, very close. Like they are number one and these are like literally right under them. Love them so much. Now, to anyone who does not know what Boys of Tommen is about, Boys of Tommen, Binding and Keeping 13 are the first two books. They follow Johnny and Shannon. Johnny is a rugby player and he has just gotten injured, and so he's kind of facing the repercussions of that, not only the physical repercussions of it, but the mental ones as well. And he's trying to go through and continue his rugby career. He's trying to hide his injury because he wants to go to the pros, and so he does not have time for relationships. He's focusing on himself. He's focusing on rugby, and it's just like his mind is only on rugby. Now we have Shannon and Shannon. Oh my god, I love Shannon. Now Shannon is dealing with a lot at home. Make sure you check your trigger warnings for this because what they deal with in their household is very, very triggering. But basically they have an abusive father, and just overall their mother is kind of checked out and doesn't defend them at all, and so they are kind of having to take care of each other. It's Shannon and her four brothers, and basically Shannon goes to a public school, but she's not only dealing with stuff at home, but she's also dealing with a lot of bullying at her public school. Girl just cannot catch a break, and so finally she gets moved to Tommen College, which is a private school in town, and Tommen College happens to be the school that Johnny goes to, our rugby player. And so when she starts, she's really nervous. She's scared that she's going to be bullied because she has faced bullying all of her life. And when she gets there, she realizes, hey, this might not be that bad. And nobody seems to really care about me. I'm kind of going to be just like the quiet one. Nobody's going to see me. No one's going to talk to me. I'm just going to go through with my school, whatever. Until one day she gets hit upside the head with Johnny's rugby ball, and the rest is history. Now, Johnny is the most popular guy in school. He's captain of the rugby team, and that obviously puts a lot of spotlight on her. Johnny has a lot of girls who are after him, one girl in particular who makes me want to scream every time I think about her, and she kind of targets Shannon, and so like Shannon ends up going through stuff at school once again, but Johnny does everything he possibly can to protect her, but he does not realize what she has going on at home. And it just overall is just the sweetest love story ever. Like, the reason why I love Shannon so much is because I really resonated with her. This is the type of book that I wish I had had when I was in like middle school. Shannon is just one of those characters that I really resonate with, and she's one of those characters that makes you feel like you're not alone. The stuff that you have going on in real life, Shannon is just there for you, and I love her so much. And Johnny Kavanagh is one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. Like Rowan Whitethorn, Johnny Kavanagh. Those are my men. But this is Friends to Lovers. Obviously, Johnny's focusing on his rugby career. He does not have time for a relationship. Shannon has a lot going on at home. She doesn't have time, or she's not allowed to be in a relationship. And they just start out as friends, and it's just the most sweet story ever. He loves her so much, and just like, it's the most heart-wrenching story ever. Like, when I say sweet, I mean sweet, but also like it's gonna make you feel like your heart was ripped out, because oh my god, like I love them so much. And then after Binding and Keeping 13, you have Saving and Redeeming 6. Now this is the same, they're the same series, so I'm not going to include them as like a different book. Now Saving and Redeeming 6 follow Joey. Joey is Shannon's older brother, and Joey Lynch is my comfort character. Everything he goes through, like Shannon and Johnny are my favorite couple, But Joey and Aoife, just like Joey and Aoife's story is just the most heart-wrenching. You thought your heart got ripped out with these. Wait till you get to these. Oh my god. But Joey is the peacekeeper in the Lynch household. He takes care of his siblings and he's their parent. He raised them. He's their mother. He's their father. Like, he raised them when their mother was checked out. He took care of them and he basically protected them from their abusive father. He took all the hits and just like, he is their parent. And he ends up, because of everything he's dealing with at home, he ends up turning to drugs. And so it's not only his story of dealing with everything he has going on at home, but he's fighting the battle of addiction as well. And all while he has a relationship with this girl named Aoife. Now, Aoife is the daughter of his boss, and so he works at a garage and she constantly is like butting into the garage, and it's like frenemies to lovers kind of. They pretend, they just have this like joking banter with each other when they're friends, but you can tell like they're in love with each other. Basically, they meet when they're like 10 years old or something. They meet when they're super young. Aoife will do anything for him. She will do anything for his family, and oh my god, I love them so much. Oh, they're perfect. And then we have the Magnolia Park series. Now, so many people hate this series, and you know what? Valid. I completely understand why. However, you cannot make me hate them. This is the most drama filled, like, if you have watched Gossip Girl, this is like Gossip Girl but make it London instead of New York, and also like more high society. Well, no, Gossip Girl is very high society, but they're more like celebrities in this almost. But I guess it's the same. I mean, they're celebrities in Gossip Girl, I guess. I don't really know. But in this series, you have the Magnolia Park series, and then you also have the Daisy Hates series. They do go hand in hand, but I'm just going to be talking about Magnolia Parks in this. I love Daisy Hates, but Magnolia and BJ are just... Now, Magnolia and BJ are childhood friends to lovers, and the story starts when they have broken up. So you don't get to see them get together. You do get little like snippets here and there, but page 1 of Magnolia Parks, they are broken up. And the reason that they are broken up is because BJ cheated on Magnolia. Now, I know what you're thinking. We don't like the cheating trope. We don't. And BJ is insufferable sometimes. Magnolia is insufferable. Everybody in this series is insufferable because it's just like the found family in it. Like there's so much drama. There's drama at every page. It's gonna make you want to throw it away, but it's also gonna make you dig it out the trash because like we need to keep going. But you end up later finding out what happened. Why did he cheat on her? What exactly went on? And now I'm not saying that it's like redeemable, but it definitely softens the blow a little bit when you find out what exactly happened. But this is just constantly just Magnolia and BJ hurting each other and just trying to make the other person jealous. And it's like, I completely understand why people don't like this series. With this series, you will either see people who absolutely love it and will die for it, or like they absolutely hate it and they're like, I'm never picking that book up again. And honestly, I get it. But if you're into some drama, if you're into some heartache, because not only is this drama, but it's also like, it's so sad and just, oh my god. The last book about Magnolia and BJ is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. That is the most beautiful conclusion to a love story I have ever seen in my entire life. I will die on this hill. That's one of my favorite books of all time. And just seeing their story, knowing everything that they've gone through, and knowing how they've matured as well. Like, I think the main reason why I love this series so much is because they're so flawed. And it's like, who wants to read a book about perfect characters? What I love about them so much is they're so human and they're so real. And like, although they're rich and they have rich people problems, they also have very human problems. And everything that they deal with, it's just like, they're so flawed and they have so many issues, but they're working through it and they're growing and they're changing as people. And I think that that's so important. I think that it's important to write books and like recommend books and read books about people who are maturing, because I mean, it's just so human, it's so real, and I just I love them so much. Oh my god, I've been debating a reread, and I think I might just holding it in my hands. I'm like, I'm a little bit tempted. Now the next two are not in any specific order because I physically cannot choose between them because I love them so much, but we have the Dark Verse series and the Edge of Darkness trilogy. Now Dark Verse, they are some of my favorite people of all time. The found family in this, but also this mafia plot, it's just one of the most well thought out plots. Now, the Darkverse series is not interconnected standalones. I know a lot of times when you read mafia books, they are interconnected, so you can kind of pick them up whenever. You cannot do that with this series. Each book is about a different couple, but you do have to read them in order because there is a flowing plot line throughout the entire books, and it just won't make sense if you pick them up in random order. Not every book in this series is 5 stars for me. Most of them are, but not everyone is. But it's just like the general plot line of it is so unique to me, and it's so well thought out, and I love these characters so much, like what they go through, and just I don't know, it's such a, I feel like a lot of times with mafia plots, and now I love mafia, I love it so much, but I feel like a lot of times it can get very repetitive. But with this, it was just so unique. You get to a character called the Shadow Man, and the Shadow Man plot is one of my favorite plots of all time. Like, I love them so much. But basically, book 1 follows Tristan and Marana. Now, Tristan is like part of a rival family, and Marana is the daughter of like the head of her side, and she is really good with computers, like coding, hacking, all of that. And she thinks that someone from Tristan's side took her codes and Tristan has them, and so one day she breaks into Tristan's house with full intention of killing him, and it does not go as planned. This series put me in such a bad slump when I finished it for the first time. It's so easy to read, but it's gonna put you in a slump after. Just a warning. Now, as for the Edge of Darkness trilogy, this is such an underrated series. Oh my god. Basically, this follows Cade and Stacy. They are like kind of forbidden friends to lovers almost, but it's forbidden friends to lovers to enemies to lovers again. But basically, Cade is the brother of Stacy's best friend, and so when they get together, it's kind of like forbidden. They don't really want to tell the sister because they don't know how she's going to react. And when they get together, it is just the most wholesome. Like, they're so cute. It almost gives like contemporary romance vibes. Like, you don't realize how dark it's going to get because they're just so sweet and so pure, and they love each other so much. But she has a secret, and what she has going on at home, she does not want to tell Cade. Definitely check your trigger warnings for this for sure. But she doesn't want to tell Cade. She doesn't want him to look at her any differently. And so she just kind of deals with what she has going on at home and doesn't tell him. And then they're just in this relationship together, but they're keeping their relationship a secret. And they're together for quite a while until something happens and Cade breaks up with Stacy because he thinks that Stacy did something, and basically Stacy breaks his heart. He breaks up with her, and now it is 2 years later. They're reunited, and he is so dark because in the 2 years that they have been broken up, he ends up getting into some mafia ties, and he becomes a much darker version of himself that Stacy never knew. And so it's like a switch. Like, beginning Cade is very sweet, he's gentle, kind, and then present day Cade is very different. But you do get to go back and forth, and I loved that about it because it was like you were reading 2 different plots at the same time. So you're going back and forth between present day when they're broken up, but they are still like, he hates her, but they're still so attracted to each other. Like, he hates her, but he literally burnt down the house of the man that she was hooking up with because he's like I can't have her, but also you can't have her either. Like, I hate her, but like, you're not gonna touch her. I'm like, are we crazy? But you're going back and forth between present day of when they've broken up and then past tense of when they first got together. You get to see how their relationship developed, how they kept it a secret, what happened to them, why they broke up. And so you're going back and forth, and I loved this trilogy so much. This will literally, like, it will have you in such a bad chokehold, and every single page, it's just like emotional destruction. Every single page. As soon as you think that they're done just having life get thrown at them, and it happens again. Like, every single page is just like, when are these people gonna catch a break? Literally when. It is so sad, but it is so good. I love them so much. Next up, we have This Woven Kingdom. Now, this is a trilogy as of right now. There are 2 more books coming out. The 4th one was actually just announced. It's coming out in September. That is my most anticipated read of the entire year. Like, I thought that I had my anticipated reads. That is my anticipated read. I do not care. But honestly, this one is kind of hard to explain without spoiling anything. But the first book, it's like a Persian mythology inspired fantasy, and the main girl, she's the long lost queen to an empire, and this empire thought that she was dead, and so she's kind of trying to like take back her claim of that empire. And it's basically just like clashing kingdoms. She ends up sort of kind of getting with this prince, but then things happen, and then there's another guy who comes in, and he's the enemy, and he's dark, and he's something, but it's like fated lovers. There's also like some sort of devil that ends up kind of getting in her head and like saying these things to her almost. It's very hard to explain. Like I can't really explain much about it without spoiling it, but oh my god, this is the most underrated series. This is the author of Shatter Me, and every single time I talk about this, I have to say it, but like Shatter Me was one of my favorite series of all time for the longest time. Like I love Shatter Me with my entire being. I'm honestly surprised I didn't put it on this list, but like I never thought that anything was going to top Shatter Me for me. Naturally, as we have seen, it has, but like Shatter Me is still one of my favorite things of all time. Aaron Warner, love that man until the day that I die. However, this series at this point, I keep saying like, depending on how it ends, it has the potential to dethrone Shatter Me as my favorite by this author. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it has dethroned Shatter Me as my favorite by this author. I don't even know how to explain it, but this is just the most unique fantasy, the most unique, just, I don't know, the story, the tension, the yearning, the slow burn enemies to lovers. Like, oh my god, it's so good. And then finally we have the Plated Prisoner series. This follows a girl who is basically King Maida's gold-touched precious being. Like, he does not let anyone touch her. She's been locked in a cage for years, and she is just like at his beck and call. Now, this series, I read the first 3 books in one sitting, like consistently. Every single book I was reading, I could not put them down. I read this at a time where I hadn't read a good book like this in so long, to the point to where I couldn't put it down. Every single time I had to put it down, I was just itching to get back into it, and this is exactly what I needed. This came at the perfect time. The mailman character in this, easily, like as soon as I started reading about him, top 4 book boyfriends of all time. Top 4. He is just the type of book boyfriend that, like, he's not gonna push her. He's gonna push her like a good amount, but he's never gonna try and turn her into someone that she's not. He loves her for who she is. But the second she asks for any sort of help, he's like, finally, I've been waiting for you to ask for help. Like, oh my god, like, he's perfect. I love him so much. He quite literally crawled home to her. Like that. I'm so sick in the head. Now, I will say the books towards the end of this series did fall short a little bit for me, just because they are very slow. However, the first 3, I don't even care. The first 3, put it on my god tier list. I literally don't even care. I love these characters so much. And this is just like a dark fantasy that, I don't know, I loved the plot of this, and I loved just like the political aspects of it. Like, it was, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was so good, okay? But these are my god tier reads of all time. If you want to comment and tell me some of your god tier reads, or if you have read any of these, what your thoughts are on them, please let me know, because I am always looking for something that is gonna just change my life. And these so far are the ones that I quite literally will never part with. So